All right, folks, the time is here. The moment I am sure none of you have been waiting for. And besides me, even knew you needed in your life is upon us. And that moment is my debut on YouTube about sports cards and the market of sports cards under the YouTube channel Launch Sports Cards. So I am excited to be doing this. I am very involved in the market of sports cards now after doing it as a child, forgetting about it and being back involved in it and really seeing a future in it. And I just want to share my journey and my experience and what I've learned to hopefully help other people who are either thinking about getting into the market or just started in the market or maybe have been involved and are trying to take things to the next level, or maybe even somebody who's been in business for 40 years and they're just kind of stale at this point and they need to hear a different perspective on things. So I want to be that bridge for all those types of people. And the point of this show is each time I do one, I want to give you some actual real life advice, things that I've seen or learned that you could apply, or at least have the information to help you. So the first show I'm going to do is going to be about the dark side of sports cards and collectibles markets in general, and the dangers and the scams and the things that you need to be aware of to protect yourself as both a buyer and a seller, and really things that you need to pay attention to if you want to do this as a business. Because I could tell you one thing: if you get burnt early in any market, it is going to end the journey for you most times. So we all love to talk about the upside of everything and how great it is. But unfortunately, the downside hits you a lot faster than the upside. And if you can't get through the downside, you're never getting to the upside. So I want to help people avoid that. And I'll tell you why I have some experience in that and just some of the things I've seen already being back in the sports card market, which doesn't surprise me. So this channel was created. We're going through the coronavirus, all of us. I got more free time on my hands. I've been isolated for 3 weeks. So with that, what better than to do something new that I'm enjoying and see where it takes me. So with being isolated and having more time, I've had more time to watch content. And the reason for me starting this channel was because of the content I was seeing in regard to the sports card market. There's shows and podcasts and different things, but none of them to me is something that hits it from every angle that me personally would want it to. So that's why hopefully I'm here to bridge the gaps of all those things. So while those shows are good, and if you watch them, you will learn, and it's something that's worth your time. So I'm not knocking anybody, but there's just kind of things missing from each one. So to me, this is kind of a combination of all those things. So we've all seen, if you're into this, Gary Vaynerchuk, who has been touting the sports card market for a while, which I think is great. Some people hate it. I think it's amazing. So that's the first point I'll make. But we'll get into that type of stuff later. So he has clips out there. He did a 3-hour question and answer thing with fans about just specifically sports cards. I would go watch that if I were you. You get a lot of that. And he has good advice on business and life and sports cards he talks about, but it's kind of few and far between the actual clips that are dedicated to it. Meaning the 40-minute, hour talk just about sports cards. But I love what he has to say just in general. So even if it's not about sports cards, I recommend listening to him. But you got him. Then you have the next tier of people who are investors in the market and kind of talking about this stuff like, the real estate market and the stock market. And while they are informative and they provide kind of more of a scientific approach to things, which I appreciate, market trends and stuff like that. The problem I have with a lot of those shows and those guys is just on a deep level, I can't relate to them in terms of the sports. Like, I'm a sports guy. I am a guy who loves sports. I played the sports through high school, into college. I wasn't a professional, but I played it as hard and as far as I could go. Growing up in New York, Mike and the Mad Dog, WFAN radio, sports arguing. My grandfather owned a sports bar. So just that whole environment of being passionate about sports and seeing other people be passionate about it and argue about it, I've always been engaged. So those kind of more, we'll call them the Wall Street investor types who are looking for percentage gains, I'm a business person. I take what they have to say. But to sit and watch them for a half hour or an hour, kind of like you see that they're not sports guys necessarily, but they see an opportunity, which God bless them. But I was listening to one of those guys, and he was talking about baseball, and he said, the baseball finals. I was like, oh, man, baseball finals. If you're talking sports to me and you say baseball finals, I can't take you seriously anymore. I'm the type of guy that, I'll break up with a girlfriend if I ask her the score of the game and she says 2-3 and not 3-2. I take it seriously. So you don't need to know everything about everything, but there's just certain things you gotta have straight. So you got those guys who are, selling you the idea of making money, and most of the times they have, a program or something to help you. Some of them are good. Some of them probably not good. I haven't done a lot of them. So I'm not going to comment on that. But as somebody sitting and listening to something on an entertainment value, I'd rather listen to a sports guy. I'm talking the type of person who, loves the game and can talk to you about, a 3-2 zone defense or, the triangle offense. And when we talk about the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, because his cards are worth a lot, you know who Bill Cartwright and Will Perdue and Tony Kukoc are. And Phil Jackson wasn't the guy who ruined the Knicks. He coached the Bulls and the Lakers and the triangle offense. And then even take it a step further and know Tex Winter was the guy who taught Phil and taught those teams, the Bulls and the Lakers, that offense we all talk about. So we could go as deep as that. We could go as far back as that. But we could also keep up with the modern day. So if you're a guy that's fantasy, FanDuel, lineups and advanced stats, Moneyball for every sport, analytics, I'm down with that. I love that. I love it all. So whether it's old school talk, like how my grandfather's bar used to be, where one time I saw two men need to be separated because they were arguing about who would be a better fat running back, Natron Means or Jerome Bettis. So we're talking 93, 94 maybe. So when you see that, you just got to love it. And I also come from a world in that where gambling is tied into that. So I've gambled on sports. I realize sports cards have elements of gambling, and that's what drags me towards it. So I'll mention, that in a little bit, the dark side. But again, I grew up where I would look for the lines in the paper, and then I'd wait for my dad to come home with those white tickets with all the games on it, and he'd say, circle 3, 5, 7 of them, boys, me and my brother. And we got into it. We wanted to win. We wanted to help Dad out. We wanted to win money. So is that the best example to set for a 10-year-old? Probably not. But you learn a lot. And I think it's helped me in my life, being in that world. And especially in my profession now. You got to, have some street smarts and know when somebody's up to something. So I got that, basically. Then you got guys who, they're sports guys, but they're very specific. Like, they'll know the Atlanta Braves inside and out, but then spread themselves too thin. All right? So those people are fine, but, it's kind of too area specific for me. I want a broad scope of things. Then, of course, you got the guys who, they know the sports, they know the cards, but they just really have nothing to say. And they'll show you 7 cards. This is what I just bought, and I got a really good deal on it. This card was $8, and I think I could hold it and make $24 on it. I like seeing that. It's interesting to me. How much can I watch that every week? Quite honestly. And then you just have people who are just full of shit. They see an opportunity. They don't know anything, but it's a good way to market. So you got a lot of different things, but not a lot of full shows. So my hope is to give you a full show and whatever you want to talk about, to be able to talk about. And again, if you're 22 years old and you wear your socks high, but you don't know about Keith Van Horn, guess what? I'm going to have a hard time listening to your information on sports, cards, and sports in general. If you don't know the triangle and 2 defense and Rick Majerus at Utah, speaking of Keith Van Horn, and you can't flow in a conversation like that, you need to listen to this. And I don't want to listen to all of your information. And on the other end of this, I hope to give you business advice because I've done pretty well. Still have a lot to learn. And I really do see a future in sports cards, on an income level and professional level. So that excites me. But again, I don't know everything about it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I do. But as I learn, I will share. I have no agenda. I got nothing to sell you. Obviously, I have sports cards. But even that, at this point, I'm not selling, tremendous amounts of stuff. I'm just kind of buying and enjoying and, playing the game, but not actually moving a lot of inventory at this point. And especially with the coronavirus, as I was kind of getting closer to starting to really unload some stuff, this hit. So just even more reason to take a step back, keep learning, keep buying, keep investing, and go along with the ride. So with that being said, let me get into the crux of the first episode. What do you need to do to keep yourself from getting burnt? All right. I am going to start with being the buyer. Okay. So that is the first thing any of us need to do, and you're starting in sports cards unless you inherit something, but you're going to need to buy inventory. So whether you're taking this as a business or if you're just collecting, buying is what you're going to do a lot of early on. So with buying in this format, there's a lot of pitfalls, okay? There's a lot of things to watch out for because it's a different world. It's the Wild West out there, and you can get hurt, all right? And we don't want that to happen. So again, being in the gold and silver and collectibles market already for years, I've seen it all. From fake items to fake money orders to scams to this to that. I've seen a lot. I haven't seen everything, but I have a good sense of when something doesn't seem right. All right. So let's start with that as a buyer. Then I'll talk about it as a seller. And then I'm going to talk about just some business practices that in general, you should apply that will help with some of these things and just kind of make you safer out there. All right. So there's all types of different scams nowadays. You see them, you'll read about them on the internet. Everybody's got an email from, email from a friend, or you think it's a friend saying, hey, I'm stuck in Nigeria and you need to send me $3,000. I lost my wallet or they're going to kill me. So you have all that stuff, and some of them are more blatant than others. But the reason those things exist, and the phone calls about your extended car warranty, and hey, this is the magistry, and if you don't send $2,500 in, you're going to be arrested. The reason they exist is because people do fall for them, all right? So some are more elaborate than others, but what I've seen so far in the sports cards is some pretty consistent ones and things that happen often. So number one, when I'm buying, if I can, if the deal's right, eBay is going to be your safest bet as a buyer. eBay favors the buyers in 99% of situations. So very rarely is it even possible for you to lose on eBay when buying something. So I buy a card for $1,000. The seller decides to send me a $2 card. I dispute it. Item not described. I'm going to get my money back. Literally, I'm going to say 100% of the time. Even if that guy sent me the right card, a $1,000 card that I bought, and he sent me the exact card, perfectly shipped, beautifully arrived, and I open item not described, I will get my money back. So I'll talk about that, on the seller side of it also a little bit, but the buyer's protected on eBay. So if you can, stay on there when buying. Now, here's the problem. When buying on eBay, you do two things. One, you buy a card and you're the type of person that sees this as a business and one day you're going to sell this. You just created a comp for that card. So the card's up there for $700. It's a good deal at $700. But now, when you go to sell it, the person buying it's going to go pull up the sold listings and say, all right, the last one sold for $700. Then they're going to hit you with, and then eBay 10% and this, and some people try and tell you it's 29 or 12%. Listen, it's 1%. You can go look it up. It's 9.15, and then PayPal at this point for the average person is taking 2.91. So do the math. That's the percent. So that's one thing, but the other thing is the fact that eBay has tax. eBay has, just kind of overall maybe a little bit higher prices because people on the seller side do have to pay a fee. So that leads us to off of eBay. So you got Craigslist, you got all different platforms, but most specifically I've seen and used Facebook and Instagram. That seems to be the core of where buyers and sellers go. Why? Facebook charges no fees, no taxes, even though we'll talk about that later. There's a lot of people on there, and you can make specific groups for specific cards and kind of gear things towards people who are interested. So with that comes the dangers. So far I've already seen 2 people try and pull a scam on me. Again, I've been down this road before. So here's some things to watch out for when buying off of eBay. Number 1, the old saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. If you see something listed for a ridiculous price, yeah, maybe the guy's getting evicted and needs the money. But most of the time, something's up, all right? So that's just obvious. What gets a little deeper now is you want to check out profile pictures. You want to check out, does that person have friends on Facebook? Does that person have pictures? Does that person appear to be a normal person? So it takes 2 seconds to make an Instagram or a Facebook profile and a fake, email and all this stuff. And I could go from being Tom Jones to Seth Jones to Tony Hawk to, Zion Williamson within 2 seconds. So when you see a profile, you want to check it out. A lot of profiles are private, but you'll get the idea of, does this look real or does this look like it's been put together in 2 seconds? Some of the obvious signs for me is you have a picture of a logo of a sports team and nothing else up there. Or you'll have somebody with Instagram that you find, and then their Facebook, they tell you their name is, this, and then you look them up on Facebook, and it's different people, different pictures. So anything that doesn't line up, keep your eyes out. But let's say things look okay, or maybe you're like, I'm not really sure if this is legit or not, but I want the card. It's a good price. So you start to engage in the transaction. You say, all right, sold in the comments. You go to private messages. If that person had a price of $1,200, and then in the private messages they say, oh, it's $1,200 friends or family. Or you could pay the fees. And you have to pay the shipping. That's not a scam, but it is not really a good business practice, in my opinion. And generally when people do that, you really shouldn't let them get away with it. So if you list something on Facebook, list it as, here it is. It's $1,200, friends or family. It's add 3% goods and services, shipping included. Or it's $1,200, goods and services included, shipping is $7 extra. Or whatever the price is going to be. So that number that's listed should be the total price, no add-ons. So if somebody starts with that, it's not a good business practice. It's not necessarily alarming. When you should start getting alarmed is when the person says, oh, friends and family, and then we say, well, I only want to pay goods and services. They start to balk. Now, you really want to be concerned if you say you'll cover the fee and they still don't want to do it. So this situation happened to me really recently, which I'll tell you about, just as kind of why you should never pay anybody, friends and family, and any person-to-person payment platform. So that includes Cash App and Venmo. Only goods and services when you are buying something. That's it. If the person can't handle that, move on. Because you are really running a risk. And, well, let me tell you first, just for anyone who doesn't know, I might jump ahead. PayPal, friends and family, it's an option where there's no fees. So it is designed, your kid fucks up in college and he needs $200, you send it, PayPal takes no fees. With that, there is no recourse. So you can't say, oh, no, I didn't mean to send that to my kid, or, I sent it to this guy for something and he didn't, because it's not a business transaction. So you send that money, it's gone. Very similar to Cash App and Venmo. Now, some people will argue that, yeah, if you pay with your credit card through PayPal, you could probably get it back. You're going to be fighting an uphill battle with that because you're not supposed to use friends and family, because PayPal has an option, goods and services, that they get paid as a merchant on to offer protections. So they're not going to go out of their way to protect you if you're trying to, go around paying them. So friends and family is for that. So as the title suggests, if they're not your friends and family, don't send them the money, friends and family, because you might never see it again. Goods and services, that's for business transaction. It comes with protection. If something goes wrong, you could ask for a refund. You could ask them to, step in and dispute something. The person has to prove that they sent it to you, tracking numbers, verified addresses, all these things that kind of are layers of protection for you as a buyer are there. So that's it. Even if it's $10, goods and services. Now, people will build relationships over time with certain people and maybe kind of skip over that. And you could do friends and family. That's one thing. But you got to remember with that, you do too many friends and families transactions, sending or receiving, and you run a real risk of PayPal shutting your account down because they're not stupid. So if you're bringing in $20,000 a month, friends and family, they're going to start looking into it. And the last thing you want as a seller or a buyer is to have your PayPal account locked, because that halts business for you in most cases. So moral of the story is friends and family are for that. Goods and services are for business. It protects you as the buyer. So one of the situations I had, deal was put out, presented to me. The amount was $11.50. And good deal, card I wanted, saw potential in it. So I agreed. Then got the guy's PayPal information. And he starts with, can you send it friends and family? Because PayPal holds my funds for 21 days. And normally I'll call them. But with the pandemic, they're closed. So right off the bat, coming at you with friends and family, just hoping you agree and you don't know any better. And the story. So that's the next thing. Friends and family, and then the story. The 2 paragraphs long of why this or that. Guess what? He told me a story about PayPal being closed, which is not true. So lie number 1 right off the gate. Then the fact that his PayPal account, normally he'll call and they'll push through bigger transactions because he does a lot of big card transactions. But the PayPal account, after looking at it, was not a verified account. So what does that mean? He's never put through any big transactions, and it's probably an account that he just opened up. And that's why PayPal, which anyone who's dealt with it, when you first open up, you got to prove who you are, put in all different things, tax ID numbers and Social Security, and they still are going to make you wait a little bit of time, but you can lower that process by giving them more information. But if you just open an account and basically just provide standard information, it's a 21-day hold until you prove that you're a real person and a legit business, because they don't want disputes and they don't want their customers who are using PayPal to be worried. So they take precautions. So he's got the story. He's already saying things that are not true. I continue to go through with this because for me, I don't want to judge people off the bat, but I'm also going to protect myself. So I say, no way, friends and family. He says, okay, fine, goods and services. Send the money. He gets the money. Now what does he do? I get a message saying, hey, can I send you the money back? And can you send it to me Cash App, because I got money coming in and out and I got another deal going on and it would just really help me out. Guess what? I know you through 5 messages. Never met you, never seen you, don't know shit about you. So to help you out isn't really my concern at this point. And it shouldn't be yours either. So now at this point, I already know this is an off situation, but I just wanted to continue with it so that, I'd see where it'd go and have, basically a story to back up just why you shouldn't use a friends and family or a Cash App to pay people. So I say, yeah, no problem. Now, if he would have just kept my money, for instance, and never sent anything or did something like that, or sent me the wrong item, I paid through goods and services. I have my credit card attached to it, so I got double protection, which I suggest you do also. So I know I was getting my money back and it wasn't going to hurt me. So it was worth the experiment. But I already knew it was going to happen at the end of the day. So he refunds the money, and then he says, oh, okay, can you get over to my Cash App? And I say, well, I got to wait for the refund to clear, which is not true on my half. It was refunded and cleared and completed. My money was back. But I just wanted to buy a little bit of time. So I asked him then some more information about himself. And I asked him to coin the picture again with something with his name. A credit card with the numbers crossed out. A license, just something with his actual name and not just a piece of paper. So what is coining? When you're buying something, they'll ask, when it's a certain value and above, to coin the picture. That is when somebody writes the name, the date, with the item they're selling. That is used to indicate that you have the item, you didn't take the picture off of eBay and now shopping it around, which happens a lot. And it's just a measure. So with that as a buyer, if the picture's not coined, ask for it. So this one was coined, but just with a piece of paper. So again, this kid could have made the name match and started the profile yesterday. So I asked for some more concrete. And then, oh yeah, well, I don't have, or I can't, or dodging the question. So I'm like, all right. Obviously, this kid does not even have the item. And what they do is they take pictures off of eBay and Instagram and Google, and they pass them off as their own. And hey, I got this card for sale. It's $1,200. Oh, really? The card is $2,500 normally. That's a great deal. Yeah. Send it to friends and family. I'm going through a rough time, and I'll get it right out to you. Where should I ship it? And then you do it. You're excited. You got a good deal. You won one. And all of a sudden, the item never shows up. Or you get a bogus tracking number and a package filled with, paper. And you're out. You're screwed. So as the buyer, main thing, try and stay on eBay, but never pay anybody, friends and family, or payment to payment. Even if you've done a couple business deals with them, you better really know that person if you're going to pay them with that. And even if you do, it's just not a great idea business-wise to be doing that, because you're skating the system. And everything I've seen in business is you could do that for so long, but eventually it's going to come back to bite you. So just pay the goods and services. Now, as a buyer, vouchers are something that you can ask for, wallet vouchers. Great. Just as easily as I could fake a profile and an email and this and that, I could fake a vouch. All right. So if it's somebody that's a well-known person, if they're a person with a breaks page and you see their face and everyone knows who they are and you Google their name and they have a sports card store and they're vouching, Okay. But the average vouch of a Facebook, some of these scams, listen, they start working on 3 months ago. And they join a group and they kind of get friendly and they'll do some real transactions. So even if the vouch isn't fake completely, they'll get somebody where they do a smaller deal with to kind of get good faith. Hey, do you mind? Can you vouch for me? Yeah, no problem. And then all of a sudden, the real plan comes out. So be careful with vouches when you're accepting them, and be damn careful with who you vouch for. Because the last thing you need, some scam artist asshole to get over on somebody and you vouch for them. Because now you might as well both have scammed the person. So you want to avoid that in general. The other thing with buying that I've seen happen a bunch of times here, and I don't know if it's just an ignorance or people new to kind of business, but it happens a lot and it shouldn't happen. So like I mentioned earlier, when a person lists something, the price is the price. If they start adding on this and that, again, it's not a scam, but it's just something that it's not great business. And it tells me the person's either not experienced in business and is kind of new to this, which is fine in some cases, but that's not the message you want to be portraying, even if you are new to it. So when you list something, like I said, the ship, insurance. So what happens, and this happened to me a few times, is the person sending me the item tells me that, oh, do you want to pay for insurance? And my response to that is, why would I pay for insurance when you are sending me your item that I am purchasing? And people say, well, because you bought it, so now it's yours. Let me break it down for you folks. Until that item and that tracking number gets to my door, and that item's in my hand, that item's not mine. So if that item goes missing in the mail, guess what I'm going to do as the buyer? And guess what you would do? You're going to call PayPal, say, hey, I paid for this, but the item never showed up. And the tracking number shows, it stopped in Indiana and hasn't moved, and it's gone. PayPal is going to give me my money back, and guess whose money they're going to take? They're going to take the seller's money right out of their account because they didn't fulfill the deal. The item's not delivered. So who needs insurance? Not me. I got my money back. Yeah, I didn't get the item, but I didn't lose anything. You lost the money, and now you have no item. So why am I paying for your insurance? So be wary of that as a buyer. Tell them that. I don't care if you send it with insurance or not, quite honestly, because if it doesn't get to me, which is the only thing insurance is going to cover, I'm right back where I started. You're the one that's going to be out. So if they want to send it with no signature or this and that, you know what? It can be on them. And will be on them in most cases. And your credit card's going to side with you. Like I said, the buyer wins most of these wars. So with that being said, don't let people add on to it. And fight for that. No problem with that. But one of the things I've seen is just people being confused, again, being new to business. When in my coin business, when I send a gold bar out, I'm paying the insurance because if it goes missing, it's my ass. And my customers is going to call their credit card. And you need to be aware of that. But I saw some people say, well, when I send my cards off to the guy who does group submissions to be graded, when he sends it back to me, he asks if I want to insure it. And I say, 100%, that's legit. Why is that different? They're your cards. You paid for them. He has no money invested in them. If he mails those cards back to you and they go missing, he didn't lose anything. Your money and cards are on the line. So yeah, insure it. So it's the same concept. If it's your money and you are sending it somewhere, you're responsible for the insurance. And if you don't use the insurance, you're an idiot. But as the buyer, argue that point. The other thing with that, which will lead me to payment forms. So you have all the PayPal and that, credit card. Some people, I don't see it as often in the sports card, but it happens in other industries, is paying by check and money order and all this stuff. Somebody wants to send you a check, great. You wait 10 days for that check to clear. 10 days. And you tell the person, okay, you want to pay with a check? We'll save on fees, both of us, or you save the fees. No problem. But you got to wait, because there's a lot of things they could do to cancel those checks, pull the money out, even after it's cleared. You got to wait. So the money hits your account, wait. 10 days is the safest. But it only takes 2 to 3 in most cases for a check to clear and hit your account. Don't just send it. Wait. Money orders, same thing. So here's a common scam. Hey, I'm going to send you a money order, but I need the item overnighted because I'm leaving town. Don't do that. Money orders are just as easily faked. About a month ago, we got a $900 money order. Somebody on our website actually printed out the page, didn't put an order through our website, sent in a copy of it saying, this is the item I want. Here's the payment. The item was $850 and he paid $900 because obviously that was, the fake money orders that he had. So I was like, well, that's weird. Why nobody's ever offered to pay more money? And we took it to the bank. We said, we think there's something wrong, or we're not sure. They cashed it. It went through. It cashed. The bank said, hey, it's good. And the gentleman said, overnight it. We didn't, because we know better. And the next day, the money was pulled out of the account. So don't fall for that. So credit card, we talked about that. Checks, money orders, obviously be careful. Cash is best, but as a buyer, don't send cash through the mail. Don't send cash to anybody. You're asking for it to go missing. And again, how are you going to prove you sent Joe Schmo $1,000 for the LeBron James card? You're not supposed to send cash through the mail to begin with. That's where money orders, came about. So just don't do that. Again, these are all things you might know, you might not know, but if you don't know them, you need to learn them quick. So that kind of covers as a buyer. Just be wary, ask questions. Don't just take people's word in the story. The more of a story, the more you kind of got to question things. Some stories are legit, but most are just kind of fluff. As a seller, again, a lot of the same things apply that I was just talking about to kind of watch out for. Fake profiles and that type of thing. But with that, you have a little more control because you're taking the payment. But you got to remember, with PayPal and on eBay now as a seller, they can reverse charges and do a lot of things. There's not a lot you could do about that, unfortunately. But if something's weird and you got to cancel a transaction, don't feel bad. So if that item's going to bury you if you lost it in terms of value and something strange, you don't need to risk it. Doesn't look good. Not a suggested practice, but you got to protect yourself first. All right. Sending stuff overseas, again, it's a dicey matter. The tracking numbers and that type of stuff gets a little bit kind of hairy. So my suggestion is high dollar items. try to keep them in the area where you live. But again, I know China and the foreign market spend a lot of money on this stuff, so that's kind of difficult. So you're kind of always taking a risk. But some things you could do as a precaution is, one, obviously do a little background on the buyers. And that comes from just, research. You won't get the full picture. You might not get any information, but you might see some things. You might pull up and the guy will have an arrest record and it's, mail fraud. All right? Like, those are just things that you can find out on Google that take 2 minutes. Watch the fake payments, like I was saying. Same things apply. The one also, in terms of fake, is stolen credit cards, which happens to us a lot. And again, anybody who's paying for something and wants it overnighted immediately and kind of is in a rush, be wary. And one thing you could do is, on all the credit cards, you could call the merchant and verify the information and see if the address matches and see if kind of the name and all those things. Again, that could be all made up too, but if the address doesn't match the credit card and where you're sending it, you want to check into the matters and think twice. Not always a clear indicator, but it is something that to be wary of. Now, with mailing the items, that's one way to protect yourself. Again, as a seller, use insurance, signature confirmation on things that are expensive. You don't need somebody saying, oh, they left it on my porch and it went missing, because guess what? It's going to come back to you. Things that are valuable, double box it. Send it overly cautious. The package, which again, at some point I'll do a video of packaging, kind of some suggestions. But you don't want that thing being opened or tampered with. You also don't want to put Sal's sports cards on the front. Just put your name or an abbreviation, because you don't want to put a bullseye, whether for a postal employee, which it does happen, or, a porch pirate where, hey, they've been watching your packages. They haven't taken anything yet, but they keep seeing Sal's sports cards or Tony's gold and diamonds. Guess what? You're a target now. So keep the packages discreet. Keep them packaged well. Shipping, insurance, and signature is recommended for things, obviously, that you can't afford to lose. With PayPal and sending items, again, verifying addresses, doing a quick Google search. Guy gives you an address. You Google it. He's giving you a name. He says he lives there with his wife and kid. The name's different. Just small things. Research. Take 5 minutes and do it. Won't protect you always. You won't be right always. But if you catch one of them, you'll be better off. And again, as a seller, you kind of backs against the wall. So I feel you there. And you just got to be careful. So I'm going to finish here quick with just some business practices to pay attention to. Again, insurance. If you're sending out a lot of high dollar cards, go find a private insurance company and find out their rates, because you'll be better protected if something does go missing. Like for the coins, we use Ship and Insure, which is an online company. It's very easy to use. You got to apply, and they have their own rates and they insure things, whether you send UPS, FedEx, US Mail. So you don't have to pay the rates of the, mail companies. So you'll save money, in the long run. But if something does go wrong, you'll also be much better protected. And the values of what you can insure and package are way higher. So we're registered and Priority Mail Express, which is overnight. We could insure something up to $75,000, where at the post office only goes up to $15,000. So if you're really doing this as a business, look into that. If you are doing this as a business, it's a good idea to incorporate yourself. Find an accountant. It costs you maybe $400 or $500. Get some paperwork. Get a tax ID number. Why will this help you in the long run? One, if you're reselling stuff, you can apply for a resale certificate. Why is that important? One, if you're doing stuff, you're kind of supposed to have it. I don't know how the sports cards kind of fall into that, if it's really necessary or not. But eBay started charging tax nowadays. If you have a resale number, you don't have to pay tax anymore on there. That's a big advantage. But even if you don't go through with all the logistics, just being incorporated, it protects you in terms of something really does go wrong and you get sued, God forbid. They're going to sue the company and not you. And all these little things that, are kind of worst case scenario, but if it does come to worst case scenario, you're going to wish you did these things and spent a little bit of money if you are taking this seriously. And then with that, taxes. So yes, it's great. Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff, and even eBay. And you sell for 400 and you take home 400. That's wonderful. But that's income. And depending where you live, and I think pretty much with the internet at this point, you need to report that and pay taxes. So if you think you're going to spend, bring in $200,000 through PayPal, and when they have here's your tax document, and you're going to ignore that, you're going to have a huge problem down the road. And I've seen a lot of people have that problem who are young, and they get the money, they spend the money, or they just don't think about it. Who's going to pay taxes? What's the easiest way? Incorporate. This allows you to take in $200,000 and then write off business expenses, shipping supplies, this, that, a computer, whatever. So here's the line. Find an accountant, incorporate taxes. Pay attention to that. And you will at least have the layers of protection in place to hopefully make this a business. So I just have dealt with this for years, not in sports cards, but just in general. And the same problems exist here, the same things to look out for. So I just want to bring some of them to light. I'm sure there's others. And there's different things we could talk about. I mean, we could sit here and talk for probably 2 hours. But if there's something that you've seen, comment. Let people know about it. Whether it's in your Facebook group, on a channel like this. Community is what helps us all. So a guy screws you, guess what? He's going to screw the next guy too. Yeah, you're screwed already, but at least you'll let people know. And the more people that report things, and there's Facebook groups, scammer pages that expose people, be careful when exposing them. And I know people don't want to just jump to conclusions, but if you have evidence, post it up there. And what I suggest is, even if you don't know if the person's necessarily scamming, I mean, some people are just stupid and they don't know how to, operate. That's possible. Post the information. Keep the messages, keep the photos, and let people judge for themselves. But you gotta let people be aware. So if we all do that, if you pay attention to these things, you're gonna have a better chance. So moving forward, in terms of shows and talks, I'm going to bring up topics that are presented to me that people are interested in, hopefully. And, they could range from, like I said, what players I think are overrated, what analytic stats are bullshit, what guys have upside, what guys have downside, to as specific as what cards of guys and what to look for, and then the grading and all this stuff that I'm intaking and I'm learning, we're going to talk about. And from there, we'll see where this goes. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you take something out of it, even if it's one thing. And I will talk to you guys, hopefully, very soon. And stay safe out there, because that is the most important thing nowadays. Talk to you soon.